It's 2 in the morning. The house is quiet, the lights are off, and you're finally ready to sleep. Somewhere else in the house, your dog has a perfectly good bed of their own soft, warm, probably bought specifically for them. And yet, almost every night, the same thing happens. They jump onto your bed, circle a few times, and settle right beside you, slowly stretching out until they're taking up most of the mattress. You're left balancing on the edge while your dog sleeps peacefully. Most people assume the explanation is simple. Maybe your dog is just cold and your body heat feels comfortable. Maybe it's a routine they've gotten used to over time. Or maybe, as some owners jokingly say, their dog is just a little too clingy. That explanation sounds reasonable. But behavioral neuroscience tells a different story. What your dog is doing every night is not random. It's one of the clearest expressions of trust between two species, and most owners never realize it. Let's start with the warmth theory, because it sounds reasonable. Dogs get cold, humans are warm, simple. Except there's a problem. Your dog has other warm places. A sunny spot on the floor, the couch, a corner near the heater, even the pile of laundry you left earlier. If warmth were the only reason, they would use those. But they don't. Instead, they walk past every quiet corner in the house. They ignore the empty couch. They leave their own bed untouched. And they choose you, because sleep is the most vulnerable state any animal can be in. When an animal sleeps, it cannot run. It cannot react. It cannot defend itself. Every instinct in your dog's brain pushes them to find somewhere safe. And somehow, the safest place they know is right next to you. That choice isn't about temperature. It's about trust. But the story goes deeper. Earlier, we talked about trust, about why your dog chooses to sleep beside you. Now science adds another layer, because this isn't only psychology, it's chemistry. In 2015, researchers at Azabu University in Japan ran an unusual experiment. The study was later published in the journal Science. They observed 30 pairs of dogs and their owners. Their goal was to measure oxytocin. Oxytocin is the chemical your brain releases when you bond with someone. It's the same hormone that floods a mother's brain when she holds her newborn child. The scientists noticed something remarkable. When a dog looks into its owner's eyes and the owner looks back, oxytocin rises in both of them. At the same time, the dog's level increases, the human's level increases. That rise makes the dog look longer. The longer gaze releases more oxytocin. The human feels closer, so they keep looking back. And the cycle continues. A quiet biological loop forms between them. Researchers tested the same interaction with wolves raised by humans. Nothing happened. The loop never appeared, which means this reaction evolved specifically between dogs and humans after thousands of years of living together. Touch makes the effect even stronger. Scientists found that just 10 minutes of petting your dog lowers cortisol in both of you. Cortisol is the hormone linked to stress. Now imagine what happens during 8 hours of sleeping side by side. That chemical bond did not appear overnight. It took thousands of years to form, which raises a question almost nobody thinks to ask. When did dogs and humans actually begin sleeping beside each other? The answer is surprisingly simple. From the very beginning, dogs were domesticated long before agriculture, before farming, before cities, even before writing existed. Roughly 15,000 years ago, wolves began approaching human camps. They were drawn by the same things any animal would notice first: food scraps, warmth from fires, and the safety of a group. Not every wolf stayed. The boldest ones did. The friendliest wolves, the ones least likely to run from humans, survived better. They found food more easily. They reproduced more successfully. Over generations, those traits spread. Slowly, those animals changed. They were no longer wolves. Archaeologists discovered powerful evidence of this in Germany, a burial site dating back about 14,000 years. 2 humans were buried together. Beside them were 2 dogs. But one detail in that discovery changed everything. One of the dogs had survived severe canine distemper, a disease that normally kills within 3 months. The animal had been sick for weeks. Someone cared for it. Someone kept it alive 14,000 years ago. That tells us something important. These animals were not just hunters or guards. They were family. And modern genetics supports that story. Researchers have discovered that domestic dogs carry unique genetic changes on chromosome 6. These changes are linked to extreme friendliness and a strong tendency to seek contact with humans. Wolves do not have these genes. Dogs were shaped at the genetic level to stay close to us, to live beside us, to seek our presence. So when your dog climbs into bed at night, it is not strange behavior. It is not a habit they invented yesterday. It is the result of 15,000 years of evolution, a pattern written deep into their biology. Sleeping beside you is not unusual for a dog. It is exactly what they evolved to do. That long history of living together shaped more than behavior. It shaped how our bodies respond to each other. And that brings us to a study most people never hear about. At first, the results sound impossible. Researchers at the Mayo Clinic tracked the sleep of 40 adults and their dogs for 7 nights. Both the humans and the dogs wore clinical sleep monitors. The numbers were clear. Dogs disrupted human sleep. They moved during the night, they shifted positions. Sometimes they stretched at 3 in the morning and pushed their owner awake. From a purely technical point of view, the data looked worse. But something strange happened. Almost every participant reported feeling better when their dog was nearby. They felt more comfortable, more secure, even more rested. So, how could worse sleep data produce better sleep experiences? A researcher at Canisius College tried to answer that question. She surveyed nearly 1,000 women about their sleeping habits. The results were surprising. Dogs were rated as less disruptive than human bed partners. They were also described as more comforting and more predictable. Her follow-up study used motion trackers to examine what was really happening during the night. Owners often woke briefly when their dog moved, but the awakenings were tiny. Most people never remembered them in the morning. The interruptions were real, but the feeling of safety was stronger. And that changes how we think about sleep, because sleep is not just about silence and darkness. It is also about whether the nervous system feels safe. A warm, breathing presence beside you can signal safety to the brain. And when the brain feels safe, the body relaxes. For most of human history, people slept in groups. Families slept together. Tribes slept together. Being completely alone in a quiet room is actually a modern habit. So maybe your dog isn't ruining your sleep. Maybe they are restoring something ancient. A 2024 study from the University of Jyväskylä in Finland explored this idea further. Researchers measured heart rate variability in 30 dog owner pairs across multiple situations. Heart rate variability, or HRV, is one of the best indicators of how the autonomic nervous system is functioning. High HRV means the body is calm and regulated. Low HRV means the stress response is active. The results were remarkable. The heart rhythms of dogs and their owners began to align. When the human relaxed, the dog relaxed. When the human became stressed, the dog's nervous system shifted as well. The strongest synchronization appeared during rest. Researchers repeated the test with unfamiliar humans. Nothing happened. The connection only appeared between bonded pairs, which suggests something profound. Sleeping beside your dog is not just a comforting habit. It is 2 nervous systems quietly regulating each other through the night. That deep connection between you and your dog is powerful, but it also means something important. If your dog has slept beside you for months or even years, and one day they suddenly stop, don't ignore it. Dogs live by routine. When a habit that strong disappears overnight, there is usually a reason. Sometimes it's environmental, a new pet in the house, a new person, a change in your schedule. Dogs are incredibly sensitive to their surroundings. Something that feels small to you can feel huge to them. But sometimes the reason isn't around them. Sometimes it's inside their body. Veterinary researchers have found that a sudden change in sleeping location can be one of the earliest signs of pain. It often appears before limping, before stiffness, before any clear physical symptom. A dog that stops jumping onto the bed may not have simply decided the floor is more comfortable. Climbing up might hurt. Jumping down might hurt. Dogs cannot tell us what they feel. They don't have language, so their behavior becomes the message. A small change in routine can be the first signal that something is wrong. That's why these moments matter. If a dog that has slept beside you for years suddenly chooses the floor, pay attention. Sometimes the smallest change is the earliest warning. And sometimes the truth is simple. They might be hurting.